Kicking off a Star Wars month, I decided to tackle one of the many games put out by LucasArts back in its heyday. Dark Forces, or specifically the Dark Forces Remastered by Nightdive Studios. I'll get to Dark Forces 2 and its expansion later down the road, but I really wanted to focus on this one. Well, no place to start than the beginning. Dark Forces takes place between Episode 4 and Episode 5 of the original trilogy, and it follows the former Imperial officer turned mercenary Kyle Katarn on his mission from the Rebel Alliance to uncover the mystery of the Dark Troopers and kill General Ron Mock, the creator of the Dark Troop. But Kyle ain't alone. He's being aided by Jan Ors, his partner in crime and mainstay of the series. She briefs you on each mission and pilots the ship, popping up from time to time to give you intel or take part in the story. Along the way, you'll come across familiar faces from the franchise and get introduced to new ones, and more importantly, square off with the Dark Troopers. Dark Forces sports 14 different levels, each referencing the movies in some way, like a prison break from a detention block or a fight through the Super Star Destroyer. And the rest are original level designs. And plus, this game was the first time we saw Coruscant before Phantom Menace. And for a long while, it was the only time we saw Coruscant under Imperial rule. Now, since this is an FPS, Kyle has his own weapon loadout and list of gadgets that will increase as you move through the game. You will start off with Kyle's blaster pistol. It does okay damage, it's better off at long range than anything else, but the blaster pistol will automatically get replaced with the Stormtrooper rifle seconds after the game starts. And this is the workhorse of the game, due to the ammo being literally everywhere. The only problem is the range, which I'll get into later. The next is the thermal detonator, the grenade of Star Wars. Takes a bit to get used to. Kyle kind of throws these in an underhanded arc instead of throwing them like a baseball, which I get for balancing issue. If you threw these things overhead, it'd be like a rocket launcher, and these things will clear out a room in a flash, so I get it. The next is the repeater gun. It's got two fire modes, automatic and spread. The single shot works more like an accurate version of the blaster rifle, but the real reason to use this gun is the spread fire, which makes this more like Dark Forces' answer to a shotgun. Problem is this gun shares ammo with 3 other guns, so use it sparingly. Next up is the fusion cutter, which in my opinion has to be one of the strangest weapon sprites I've ever seen in a game. The bottom of the screen is just 4 tubes sticking out. How's Kyle even holding this thing? Is he just kind of underslung it or something like that? Don't get me wrong, it does decent damage and comes in handy when you're fighting Dark Troopers in close spaces. And plus the alt fire is just a line of blasters that goes across the screen, so no shade from me, just looks odd. Next up is the mine. Other than using this as a utility item, like blowing up walls in Zelda, these mines are absolutely useless in combat. Dropping a proximity mine that can't tell the difference from friend or foe is more of a hindrance than anything else. Just use the thermal detonator or the mortar gun, which is our next entry. Mortar gun works more like grenade launcher. It will shoot out explosives at a decent rate and take down most enemies in a few shots. Save it for the armored troopers.
You're gonna need it.
And then you have the concussion rifle. Now, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this gun. Concussion rifle doesn't actually have a projectile, it's more of a hit scan weapon. So when you pull the trigger, the bad guy you have it aimed at is going to blow up. And if there's a line of enemies in front of you, you hit that alt fire and everything else will get targeted and blow up at the same time. But if what you're aiming at has any kind of elevation on you, you're going to hit nothing but air and waste ammo. Or worse, lock onto a texture right next to you and blow up in your face. And finally,
favorite part of the game,
the assault cannon. This thing puts everything else in Kyle's weapon loadout to shame. The main is a rapid fire plasma shot, and the secondary is a missile launcher. This is a Johnny OMA one-man army gun in the flesh, and it's in Star Wars. Those who got that reference, you're the real ones. The catch is you'll be picking this up on Coruscant close to the end of the game, and you won't be picking up ammo for this regularly until the last 2 levels of the game anyway. You'll be facing off with the Dark Troopers that are carrying this as a regular weapon. But Kyle also has his fair share of gadgets too, kind of like 007. Like the night vision goggles, a handy map, and a gas mask just in case your mom walks into the room. Sorry, Nigel. Run, dude! You alright, Nigel? Okay, back to the video. The enemies also vary too. You will shoot your fair share of stormtroopers, droids, Imperial officers, but you also square up against the pig-like Gamorrean guards that can take a lot of damage. And during Jabba's ship, you will have to fight these guys barehanded. I would make a your mama joke about punching a fat pig over and over, but I'm better than that. Then you have the Trandoshans that carry the concussion rifle. The only thing is, they will hit you every time, no matter where you're at. If you're above, below, in front of them, what? They see you, they're going to hit you. And then you got the Malastarians, and all they want to do is try to punch you or throw grenades. They're the most annoying enemy in the game, hands down. You also get to fight alien monsters, and apparently all garbage pits have those monsters from A New Hope. Every single one. The bosses are kind of meh. There are only 3. An alien monster on Jabba's cruiser, you need to punch it in order to get by. So I guess Kyle is the Chuck Norris of Star Wars. Then you got Boba Fett. He just flies around like Tinkerbell, just shooting missiles at you. Yeah, there's nothing really interesting about that fight. Just shooting when you're over with. All that flying is going to get him in trouble one day. Then you have General Mach at the end, which I won't spoil, and the rest are dark troopers that serve as mini-bosses. And to be honest, they're the most fun to fight. Some of the troopers are wielding sword and shield for some reason that reflect blaster bolts. The other 2 variants either fly or have heavy armor and cannons, all coming together for a decent challenge. And back in the day, this was the definitive Star Wars FPS game. Ironically being called a Doom clone, but I disagree with that statement. If anything, it's a beefed up version of Wolfenstein 3D with platform mechanics. The Imperials have similar behaviors to the Nazis in Wolfenstein for obvious reasons, and the maze-like structure of each level makes this feel more like that game than Doom. Yes, Doom had its own maze-like structures, but not on the same level as Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein made you feel like a rat in a maze. But the difference here is each level has its own objective and puzzle that you have to complete before returning back to the ship and finishing the level. Which gives me the sneaking suspicion that this game may have inspired the first Time Splitters game. I may be wrong, but in that game you progress through the level, shoot all the enemies, get an item, and return back where you came from. Kinda sounds familiar. This game actually did have a pretty big effect on Star Wars as a whole. The first mission in the game was explanation for how the Rebellion got a hold of the Death Star plans in the first place. But since the original EU has been declared no longer canon, the story was replaced by Rogue One. Instead of a merc breaking into a secret facility shooting all the Imperials in sight, it was replaced by a melodrama about a bland brunette and her estranged father being the epicenter of the largest battle station in Star Wars history. Nothing against the people who liked that film. I understand, and I thought it was entertaining for what it was. Hell, there are parts in that film that I absolutely love. But at the end of the day, Rogue One symbolizes what Disney has done with the franchise as a whole since they wiped the EU. The current guard could go in and cherry pick the stuff they want from the EU and discard the rest. So there's no need to come up with anything new, just repackage old stories and ideas. The Dark Troopers were put into The Mandalorian, Kyle Katarn and Jan Ors was replaced by Jyn Erso, and in fact with modern day Star Wars, it's a trend for legacy characters to get replaced by a bland white woman with brown hair and no personality. Kinda wonder if somebody's projecting. Kinda sad really, because the original EU was a wide array of stories. Not all of it was good, there was some bad shit in there, but still, it's kind of a shame. There's actually a YouTuber called Red Scott Gaming that I agree with. At the end of the day, your headcanon is your headcanon. Pick and choose which story you like and put it all in a single canon and make it work.
But screw that! I fight back! Cause you're not the boss of me, I'm the boss of me! And don't you ever forget that!
And thankfully, since studios like Nightdive exist, remastering old games like Dark Forces so new players can get them up and running on new hardware is available. Before you had this, you had to run Dark Forces in DOSBox and had to download third-party patches, or it looked like this. It's either this or play it on the PlayStation. And to my knowledge, it's one of the few console ports that comes pretty damn close to the PC counterparts, so yeah, go ahead. If you got the hardware, go ahead and do it. But what about the Nightdive Remaster? Well, it's actually a pretty damn good remaster. There are a few changes here and there, like some of the weapons have been tweaked a little bit. The concussion rifle, for example, is slightly more accurate than its original counterpart. The fusion cutter, it doesn't seem to do as much damage. I have no proof, but standard stormtroopers take a lot more hits from this gun than what I remember. The one I definitely know for sure they tweaked is the blaster rifle. Weapon spread on this thing is everywhere. If you're not mid, close range, or shooting a burst, you're not going to hit anything. I get why they nerfed it. The original was a bit overpowered, ammo was plentiful, and you could bulldoze all the way through the game with this one gun. And you can kind of use nerd logic to excuse this. These blasters were mass-produced quantity over quality, and stormtroopers supposedly can't hit the broadside of a barn, right? Well, in the remastered, that's not true. They've been made more accurate. On higher difficulties, they're going to hit you clear across the map. Nightdive also cleaned and redid some of the cutscenes. Nothing's been changed, they're still the same cutscenes, but they've been made more crisp and even added an animation or two, making them run a hell of a lot smoother than what they used to. So the big question, should you get the Dark Forces Remastered? Yeah, sure. If you want to play the classic with updated visuals without having to download a library of patches to get it running halfway decent, yeah, go get it. Nightdive did an awesome job with this game. Unlike another Star Wars re-release, this one's bug-free and doesn't require most of your hard drive space to play. I mean, yikes, Battlefront, what the hell? Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, go ahead and thump that notification bell. And stay tuned, Star Wars month is in full swing. Y'all take care.